Hello, everybody, and welcome back once more to Anime Yay or Nay. I am the AltbackAl.
I'm Chibi Noob.
And I'm Envy Jitters.
And I'm CheerandCosplay.
And we got more Spielberg stuff, which is not quite anime, but hey, it's almost anime enough. Pinky and the Brain. Who watched this as a kid?
Me.
Awesome. Envy? Still new?
No, Okay, this is one of those things where I know I've seen episodes as a kid, but if you had to ask me which specific episodes, I cannot answer you that.
I mean, same.
Let me ask you this. Was it the episode where Pinky and the Brain tried to take over the world?
Yes.
Okay, well, fantastic. You've basically seen the whole series at this point.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, I do have a bit more of a personal connection with this one because my very first Christmas I received a baby doll. I was, 10 months old? And she was my favorite thing. I took her everywhere with me. She was named Pink Little Baby. I was super creative with names back in the day. She was usually called Pinky for short, so my dad would call us Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, fun.
Wow.
So, again, like the last couple of weeks, we've been kind of grabbing a smattering of the different episodes throughout their run for this show. I kind of picked from the internet a little bit. Ended up being a lot of movie parodies, which was something that Pinky and the Brain did pretty often, I think.
Yeah.
Interspersed with the regular try to take over the world stuff. So I wanted to try to grab a few good ones. What did everybody think? I guess we should probably start with Envy since this is mostly new for you.
I will say I enjoy these episodes a lot, but I will say I think did you kind of go out of your way to pick the most unique episodes that don't normally follow the traditional take over the world, but with a twist on them? Because I feel like each episode had a twist in some way.
So, I think I mentioned this during the Tiny Toons one. I kind of went to a bunch of different... Because it had 65 episodes, and we were not going to be able to watch all of them, I went to different lists online of, who said which episodes were the best, and I kind of picked the ones that kind of came up the most often. And again, I think the thing with people who review a lot of, media, whether it's movies or TV or whatever, they're going to tend to pick the ones that are about the stuff that they like movies, TV, stuff like that. So we kind of ended up with a lot more of those. I think maybe I could have been a little more discerning on some of these, but it is what it is at this point.
No, these episodes are really good. I'm just saying, like the first episode, for example, where they get freaking kidnapped by supposed animal rights activists and get sent to the jungle, and then they somehow turn into a cult lead by their gerbil arch nemesis, and then they have to solve that.
So
that's
that is a movie.
I was gonna say that's a parody.
It's called Apocalypse Now. So yes, that is.
I've never seen it, so
yeah.
I didn't pick up on that.
Cece just got it. Yeah. In this scenario, Snowball is Marlon Brando.
Yeah. And the second one is a parody of film noir.
Third Mouse. Yeah, Third
it
Man.
did have a lot of references to other movies.
Then there was Winnie the Pooh, and then there was a Halloween episode.
The Winnie the Pooh one's one of my favorites.
That was great. That
so
episode was great.
To be fair, I think because we watched Pinky and the Brain episode last week during Animaniacs with the Jeopardy spoof with the robot body and everything else. That's a lot more like your normal episode of Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah.
It was usually a little more pop culture-y, have something to do with that, and kind of do that. I think they did they ended up, along with parodies, I feel like they did more social commentary every now and then with Pinky and the Brain. Animaniacs did it too, but I feel like this was always a little more pointed towards that. But yeah, we can get into that a little bit more. Envy, what did you think about the Star Wars bit? I know you're a Star Wars fan.
Well, I mean, wasn't there an Animaniacs Star Wars episode 2? Or a Tiny Toons Star Wars episode 2?
I believe they did. I wanted to include that one because I think that was actually the series finale. Was that 2-part thing? And how they included everyone from the Animaniacs and everything else from there. And even Freakazoid gets a cameo. So
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I enjoy a good Star Wars parody, and it was pretty funny. It's just seeing I forget her name, the squirrel,
Slappy,
Slappy as Obi-Wan. That was funny.
Yeah, we got a little bit more because we didn't get very much of them last week. We got a little bit more of Scratch and Sniff, Hello Nurse, and Plots, the studio head. So that was nice to include. But yeah, what's your overall impression? Where does this compare for you on some of these other bits?
You know, I didn't say this last week during the Animaniacs review because I didn't want to piss people off, but I wondered how they managed to do a whole series off of Pinky and the Brain, because I thought for those episodes, I thought Pinky was a little annoying, but for some reason, I didn't mind him in these episodes. I actually found him pretty endearing. Maybe it was just the way they were written better, I don't know, but I enjoyed Pinky and Brain's dynamic a lot, and obviously Rob Paulsen's having the time of his life voicing Pinky, and Phil LaMarche has a good job as Brain. So yeah. I think the performances and the writing worked a lot better in their own show than they did the other for me.
If I'm remembering, the Pinky and the Brain episode we watched for Animaniacs was literally in the first episode of the series, and it was the first Pinky and the Brain bit. They had more throughout the rest of it that I think they were able to work on a little bit more and make the characters a little better. And then this is I think this is the result of, they were tweaking the characters a little bit here and there to get them just right for this.
Because I will say, too, we can get into it a little bit more later, but I will say the final episode, the Christmas special, I knew the twist was coming at the end, but it still got to me. I was like, okay, this is so heartwarming, damn it. I didn't have to pull up my heartstrings like that, damn it.
That's actually from season 1, but I did want to put that at the end because the ending is really good. It's a really good Christmas episode that I think needs to be brought up a little bit more as far as, Christmas specials go.
Yeah, totally. I was sitting there like, I'm not going to cry at Pinky and the Brain.
It got me a little bit too. It's a really good that's a really good ending. And honestly, it's still a funny episode, even beyond that. But yeah. How about Cece, Chibi? What kind of history, I guess, and have you guys seen any of these ones before, or were there mostly a lot of the other episodes that you guys watched?
So for me, it kind of depended on what I managed to catch at the time.
Right.
So everything kind of blends together. I have no real pure recollection of these episodes specifically. A lot of the episodes that I can a little bit remember mostly followed the normal formula of, we're going to try to take over the world, shenanigans, ending, prepare for tomorrow night, Pinky. What are we going to do tomorrow night? Try to take over the world. Rinse and repeat. These, I would say, I'm these are all very fun in a much more different way. And I enjoyed these. I enjoyed these a lot. I remember Snowball?
Yeah.
Vaguely.
I didn't. I did not remember him that much, and he features in 3 of these episodes.
Yeah, people really like Snowball, I guess.
I think, again, it kind of goes back to the sources I was going for a lot of the picks for these tended to be movie people and, one of the movie parodies, and I feel like a lot of movies tend to have a villain, and... Yeah,
it was a necessary antagonist kind of thing.
Yeah, who's the villain when technically the whole show is following the villains? You know what I mean?
A worse villain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had fun. I have a high amount of nostalgia for this, even though I don't really remember a whole lot of it. So I was enjoying myself. Pinky was very funny. I was like, oh, as an adult, I understand this a lot more. And I don't know, I really liked his, sort of, I'm very silly, but I'm also very witty. Unintentionally.
Yeah.
And that was really good.
I love all of his, I don't know exactly what you call it, the
one-liners?
Well, the one-liners, but the bits he always has whenever the Brain's like, are you pondering what I'm pondering? Well, I think so, Brain. And then he just goes into something, and it's usually really good. You watch a supercut of those, okay, they had A-game material for a lot of these that are still hilarious.
They just had really good...
Lab Rat sounds funny, but I don't know if it has legs for its own series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think so, Brian, but if you got a long little doggy, wouldn't you call it a dachshund?
Like, I feel like they just had writers who really knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
The part that got to me the most, like, was throughout the film noir episode where everybody kept insinuating to Pinky that Brain was dead, and he just either did not hear them good or he just didn't give a shit. It's like, I need to see Brain. Where's Brain at? Where's Brain? And that kept, the more it went on, the funnier it got to me because everybody's getting more and more pissed off at him.
Like, there is, and I'm pretty sure I saw this whenever someone was talking about the movie Dumb and Dumber, because it has a lot of the same humor of like, oh, you're dumb, but you're dumb in a very smart kind of way. A lot of times, it does take really smart people to write people who are really dumb and have it actually work. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll give him a lot of points for that. Pinky is one of the best dumb characters out there.
Yeah, similar to what Chibi said, and also similar to what I said last week with the Animaniacs. I was a toddler when this show was airing, and I never saw reruns, because by the time it got off the air, that was when we were in our not really watching TV phase, so I remember the theme song from my dad singing it while I was, like, marching around with my baby doll. I remember the shapes. Like, if you had pressed me, I could be like, it's about two mice, and one is silly and one is smart, but I could not tell you any details.
I mean, it sounds like you got it, so...
Except one is trying to take over the world.
Well, they both are. One's more of an assistant, though, I guess.
Yeah.
I definitely watched this mostly whenever it was like reruns on Cartoon Network for a while, and
Cartoon Network. Okay, yeah, that's why I would never see reruns. We were not allowed Cartoon Network.
Well, yeah, it was all owned by Warner Brothers. I think they originally had their run on would have been Kids WB around that time, or like the early days of it.
Yeah, I remember Kids WB.
Then syndicated to whatever Warner Brothers would own after that. So yeah, I'm trying to think. There were a couple, like, also the girl who was in the Third Mouse one, also a recurring character that had happened, and I was wondering if they were going to be like, I didn't realize how much, like, how serialized the series actually was to some degree. Like, it is, like, it's an episodic show, obviously, but there are actually a number of recurring characters that keep showing up here and there throughout it, and, like, there is a continuing history to some of this. Which is interesting for a show that's also in line with Animaniacs and Tiny Toons, where it's like, okay, everything resets at the end of the day kind of thing. You know what I mean? So, which was your guys' favorite segment of these, or any others that you can think of?
The Christmas episode was the most heartwarming at the end, but I think the Apocalypse Now parody was probably my favorite, which I didn't even know was an Apocalypse Now parody until you just mentioned it earlier.
I think it's only an Apocalypse Now parody after Snowball shows up. The first half of it's more of just like a Tarzan kind of like Robinson Crusoe survival thing, but
sure, pulls from like several sources.
Yeah, the
like the noir one.
The noir
like,
one,
There's Sunset Boulevard. There's Chinatown.
Yeah, good stuff. I think, because I had to include it here, the one I always remember the most was the Winnie the Pooh one, for some reason.
I think that one was my favorite. That was so funny.
I didn't understand any of these references as a kid, at all. And yet I found all of them hilarious just because they act so ridiculous throughout it. And it's so much weirder and funnier to me now that I actually know what they're referencing. That being said, I do think, and this is kind of what I brought up with Tiny Toons and a little bit with Animaniacs, some of these are going to be like lost to any like young people who don't know some of the older pop culture references. This doesn't mean anything to anyone, but it might still be funny. Like, I thought Christopher Walken being there was hilarious as a kid.
I was in tears.
No fucking idea who this person was. Just knew they sounded so weird and were so bizarre. And now, me, 20-something years later, watching this, knowing who Christopher Walken is, having seen Annie Hall, which this is a direct reference to, and all that. Oh my god. This is a kid's show. I have no idea how. And the bit with Al Gore.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I mean when I say, like, they were really like, we're not gonna, like, beat around the bush here. Let's just say it.
Dude, the algo, like, I'm sure, I'm sure when that episode aired, he was either still the vice president or running for president, so that was so timely. But even now, it's
vice
funny.
president at the time. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, to be fair, the South Park game kind of made me laugh at that even more because of what they did during the Stick of Truth.
Oh yeah, South Park made a ton of fun of Al Gore. I mean, a lot of people have. But, it's one of those jokes of, like, this is perfect because the name slots in perfectly for the character, but it's still also feels like this is kind of a universal, you can make this joke about literally any politician, almost, which is kind of, it's like, you might not get this reference to this specific person, but you get what we're going for here. And it's kind of perfect. I almost do kind of wish B. Arthur got a little bit more of a character plot, though. Feels a little bit wasted. And where were the rest of the Golden Girls? Why were the other Golden Girls not there amongst the honey? You know what I mean? Missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, was B. Arthur's character the most popular out of the four?
No, she was kind of the mean one.
Well, I've seen the Golden Girls a few times with my grandmother back in the day, but I didn't know if, which one was the breakout character out of the four.
I would think Betty White, but I don't know. At the very least, she was the longest surviving of them.
Well,
Betty White's character was kind of, sweet, but also sort of dumb.
Yeah, you know what? She's kind of like Pinky.
A little bit.
This has nothing to do with anything, but I do find it funny that apparently Gary Gygax, the inventor of Dungeons & Dragons, thought that the perfect adventuring party, personality-wise, was the Golden Girls.
Yeah, I hear that's what he based it on.
It's weird, but also you're like, you know what? Yeah, I see it. Mm-hmm. Any Mick Jagger fans?
That
one was a little weird.
It was weird.
I mean, I like the Rolling Stones, so...
Yeah. I don't know. This is a funny ass show. All of these are funny ass shows. Does anyone? So I've been talking a little bit about this theory of how is the thesis going so far? I don't even know how to describe what I've been talking about with this.
Of the evolution of Spielberg's Presents cartoons?
Yeah, of the humor in it. I think we're going now farther into heavier reference and parody, satire type stuff, and to some degree, we're starting to hit that point of it's reference for reference sake. Does anyone else feel that way a little bit?
I mean, maybe for these episodes, it's reference for reference sake. We didn't really see any episodes that follow the normal trajectory.
That's fair.
Maybe if we saw something a little bit different, maybe it would feel not quite so, we're really trying to do something with this, rather than it's we're being funny right now.
For me, I would say it's right in the middle of a Mel Brooks reference where it's ingrained into the plot versus those terrible Friedberg and Seltzer parody movies from the mid-2000s where they were just references to be references. I think it's more than that.
I'm not going to go into it because I have a whole, I could talk about the problems there for hours, and that's not what this is about, so I'm just not gonna.
Patreon content.
Content. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say for your thesis, at least for me, it took a step back last week. For this one, it took 2 steps forward. Because we're back on the trajectory of the humor improving, but that's because I like this kind of humor. This humor is the kind of stuff that I like.
See,
and it's very much a me thing.
Yeah, no. I mean, we've said a couple times this month that comedy's very subjective and it's going to, you're going to get varying mileage for everyone. I'm trying to think for myself, whether I do find this funnier than Animaniacs. I think I laughed more at Animaniacs because, well, first off, I think we did get a little bit more variety with Animaniacs. Partially my fault on that. But yeah, I think I would say Pinky and the Brain's on par with Animaniacs to a large degree as far as what I think they were doing with the humor and the comedy and the stuff that I've been talking about lately. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, I agree.
What did you feel like they were doing better here that they weren't in Animaniacs? And possibly, I guess if you're saying they were better in Animaniacs, you also liked Tiny Toons better. Where do you feel like it compares to there?
Plotline.
Plotline? Okay.
Yes. I want to have a plot line, and I want the jokes to go with the plot line to get me from point A to point B. Animaniacs felt, because it's kind of a sketch show, it's a little scattered.
Yeah.
So I feel like some things land a little too short for me, and also, like, sometimes it felt like a little bit of randomness is not the right word for it, but it felt like they were being not necessarily even out there, but it's just like a kind of humor that I was just sort of like, this doesn't even feel like Looney Tunes. This feels somewhat like it, but not, and it's less funny.
You're really gonna hate next week. I'm just gonna let you know now.
Oh no! I looked at Freakazoid and I'm just like, I do not think I will like you, sir.
Oh no.
I'm like, your character design's already giving me bad vibes.
Oh, give it a chance. So, where does Pinky and the Brain stand for you against the other two? If we were gonna say rank them a little bit.
Oh, ranking Pinky and the Brain comes first.
Okay.
Then Tiny Toons, and then Animaniacs.
All right.
I don't know how everyone else feels about that, but that's how I feel.
For me, I think they got better as they kept going, but I do think with their final show, they do hit a brick wall of, like, we've come to a logical conclusion for this type of humor, and we can't go anywhere else with it. I think you'll see what I mean next week, but we won't talk about that till next week.
Okay.
Though weirdly enough, I don't know. I'd probably say Animaniacs is probably the best of them, and yet I do go back to Freakazoid quite a bit. Again, talk about that next week. How about everybody else? Where's everybody else feeling with all of these at this point?
I think I laughed more at Animaniacs, but I think, like what Chip said, the plot elements, like Pinky the Brain having more episodic stories, did help for me. I really don't. I can't really decide right now, but it's a close tie with Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain, and then Tiny Toons below it.
Okay.
I can't comment on Tiny Toons, but I think I like Pinky and the Brain better than the Animaniacs. Less the plot thing and more, it feels a little less slapsticky, I guess.
There's also that. I think that was what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't grow up with Looney Tunes a lot, but I grew up watching Tom and Jerry all the time, and that's, the king of slapstick and cartoon violence, so...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's... Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but I feel like Tom and Jerry does it better.
I think this, but I think I've also heard other people say this. I think Tom and Jerry was always able to show pain probably better than almost any other cartoon. Because, like, even though everyone's very, like, cartoony and very, like, physically malleable, when someone gets hit, it's a very solid hit. Like, people aren't rubbery whenever they're smacked with something. They're...
I mean, Tom has literally died in several episodes of that show.
Plus, you know what helps? Tom has probably the most iconic cartoon scream out there.
The eyes. How they have the eyes that just go out and out and out.
Yep. God, we should have watched Tom and Jerry for this as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
we'll go back for some
it's
classics
kind of
later.
weird.
I don't know.
It's kind of weird because Tom and Jerry came out around the same time as the Merry Melodies and Looney Tunes, but yet it's not considered part of Looney Tunes.
It was just a different studio. Actually, Chuck Jones, who created a lot of Looney Tunes, did some Tom and Jerry cartoons as well. You'll know them because they look a little bit different from an animation standpoint, but I think he also very much got the vibe.
They're a little. For Chuck Jones, were they the ones that were a little rounder, or were they the ones that were like had a more Looney Toony look to them?
They had a little bit more of a Looney Toony look. And I guess in comparison, they look a touch jankier, I think.
Oh.
The animation's
the one
not
that
as
I'm
smooth.
thinking of, the one in space. With
the one in space. Oh, boy.
Robot mouse.
Space Jam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was one of his.
Okay, I'm like, there's one specific episode where I remember the art style being different than the couple of other iterations before it. I wasn't sure if that was like his work or not.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's one of the ones you were talking about. There were a few of them, but yeah. It was always like a weird thing. Like, I as a kid, it was like one of those things of like, I knew I was watching the same show, but it's also like, this is different. Why is this different? This is...
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, each decade almost had a different animation style and different, types of shorts. So yeah.
Yeah. Like it was always one of those things of like, when did Pokemon come out? 98?
Yeah.
Yeah, something
Yeah, I
like
was
that.
like 6 years old, and I was like, this is a cartoon, but it is not the cartoons I am used to. I can't put my finger on how it's different, but I do know that it is. I like it though.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, because it wasn't Animaniacs Pinky the Brain, I guess. So, trying to think here. So, I don't know what else. Like, part of the thing of this is like it's such a like maybe part of the reason that I think this show works so well is like, one, you have a fantastic comedic duo with the smart one, dumb one. Like it kind of goes back to like a lot of the classic stuff that we were saying with Animaniacs. Kind of drew from like the Marx Brothers and stuff like that. I think Pinky and the Brain drew a lot from like the Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello type duo characters, and I think occasionally I brought up Pinky the Brain and Larry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did Three Stooges every now and then as well. So, yeah, I think a big portion of these shows working was always just, let's find an influence from, like, a comedic legend or, like, a classic style, and let's exploit that in a new way, in a new, like, modern setting kind of thing. I think it works fantastic. Unfortunately, though, because it's a much smaller cast and there's less going on, it's like, what do we talk about here?
I mean, I think in that way it kind of like has a certain charm because it's sort of like, you know what to expect, but it's that different element that they threw in there that just kind of like makes each episode like kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
But I feel also like you don't have such a large ensemble cast. It allows you to focus and get more attached to the two central characters a lot more.
That's true. And in a way, you also get more time to actually like build on the premise of your episodes like you enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
I think they definitely had a lot more like full half-hour stories in this show than, Animaniacs never really did a half-hour thing unless they were doing a special. So, yeah. And I think even when they were splitting them up, like the Third Man film noir parodies were part of the same episode, so you could at least have a through line for your themes and stuff as well. The show was kind of like them taking like a lot of the parody and satire elements they were including in Animaniacs and just like expanding it to actually give it more room to breathe in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because like they did parodies in Animaniacs as well. Like I enjoyed the Death on the Nile thing and some of the other things that they did in there. But it's all sort of like very short. It's very like we're gonna hit the surface of all this as opposed to like digging deeper into like what was going on with it. But here you can. And you also get Christopher Walken as a child throwing mice into the air.
Yes.
It's still so weird.
I will say, I think out of the 3 theme songs that we've heard so far, I think this one might be my favorite. I know that might be blasphemy, but...
No.
Oh, no. It's not.
See, here's the thing. All 3 so far, Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, and Pinky and the Brain, fantastic theme songs. I mean, the music across the board has been fantastic. I'll give a shout out to Richard Stone, the theme music composer who did songs for Looney Tunes, Tiny Toon Adventures, Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, a bunch of stuff during this time. And a lot of the other composers, Steven Bernstein, Julie Bernstein, Gordon Goodwin, and Carl Johnson, like all of them did a fantastic job throughout this.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's got that, like I brought up last week about how a lot of like the older Looney Tunes and like a lot of cartoons just generally back in the day would use like public domain classic music and then build off of that. And this music was original for the show and yet feels like it's existed for hundreds of years almost. So you just know how to hit that right music or do something to make it just feel like it's just
timeless.
It's always existed. Yeah, timeless.
It's them strings, man.
Yeah, strings are a good way to go. I think We're gonna go from strings to horns next week, but yeah.
Oh boy.
You're really gonna hate next week. I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
I don't know. You never know. I don't know how much of it you've already seen at this point, but there might be some stuff that surprises you.
I have a very vague recollection of like maybe an episode or two, and that's about it.
Okay.
But it was a long time ago.
I know one joke from Freakazoid, and it might be in one of the episodes you put in.
What is it? Or should you tell me afterwards?
I might tell you afterwards.
Okay. All right. Meantime, what else do we want to talk about as far as Pinky and the Brain goes? Does anyone have any other thoughts to go over about it, characters or otherwise?
They rebooted Animaniacs. I want to see them reboot this one too.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
They did?
Well, yeah, it's part of the Animaniacs bit.
Well,
They just put it back in the show.
okay. Well, I like the standalone.
That's fair. Well, I mean, as far as final thoughts go, I do think that this show, like I said, did a little bit better with, like, fleshing out some of the parody and the satire stuff that they kind of started in Animaniacs. And it's a fantastic duo. It's a full yay for me. I like every other week that we've been doing this, I want to go back and rewatch a bunch of the other episodes just to check them out and have fun again.
Yeah, I give this a yay. This was very fun. I had a good time.
Yeah, same. It's a good yay for me. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, yay as well. Hard yay. I like the parody and the puns and the satire, and they did a great job with that, which I think is why I like this one the best so far.
Okay. Well, we only have the one more. Well, we might. We're gonna see about some stuff, but yeah. So next week is what. Yeah. Hey, Chibi, get ready because Freakazoid's next week, and it's gonna be a whole thing. So
Okay.
I'm gonna warn. I don't know if this is gonna help. Probably not. Freakazoid is one of my favorite shows as a kid. That probably
figured.
says more about me than anything. But I'm going to be interested.
Are you going to regret that statement?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
But I feel like every time that we've had a situation of like, this is one of my favorites, like of all time, people have been like, I didn't enjoy it, but I feel like I got to know you a little better. So.
I mean, we have been friends for how long?
Oh, it feels like decades at this point. It's been at least a decade.
Years?
Yeah.
Yeah, like 11 years at this point. So, well, I guess this is more to know about your friend that you've known for a very long time.
I don't know if it's going to be you're going to know more about me, or it's going to be like, you know what, this makes sense.
I feel like I understand you a bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I understand you better, and I don't like it.
Yeah, that will actually probably be the vibe.
Yeah. Who knows? You never know. It might grow on you. Like a
We'll
rash.
Ugh.
Anyway,
Gross.
we'll find out. We'll see if any of my friends enjoy one of my favorite shows next week. Freakazoid, the last and to at least to my theory, the conclusion of the sort of Steven Spielberg presents School of Comedy, essentially. But we'll leave that judgment until next week. Hopefully you guys will join us. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon for notifications. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, and if you haven't already, check out some of our previous episodes, our daily gaming videos, or our parody series Madoka Magically Abridged. See you next time!